Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for this cybersecurity briefing. Cybersecurity and the threat of ransomware are a major concern for schools, following an increase in targeted attacks on school systems and schools' data. This 30-minute session is non-technical in nature and has been designed to give school leaders an understanding of why the education sector is being targeted by criminals. We will look at ways in which schools can reduce their risks and improve their cybersecurity resilience. I'll also mention some solutions and Scomis services at the end of this presentation, which can help prevent an attack, and solutions which will assist with operational recovery from a cyber incident. Cybersecurity should be high up on the priority list for any school or trust. A school operation is reliant on IT and online systems. The aim of this session is to give school leaders a top-level view of ways in which schools can mitigate their risk of cyber attack. Senior leaders do not need to be technical experts. The role of governing boards and senior management teams is strategic and should be focused on ensuring that the school or trust has IT policies and procedures in place which cover the use of IT systems and data security. As such, school leaders need to have an awareness of cybersecurity and know the right questions to ask, as this allows them to have meaningful conversations with their technical teams and IT suppliers. An excellent resource for cybersecurity materials for schools and school leaders is the National Cybersecurity Centre. The NCSC is a UK government organisation which provides free advice and support for the public and private sector in how to avoid computer security threats. Based in London, it became operational in October 2016 and is part of GCHQ. Their website contains a wealth of free materials which can be downloaded and used to raise awareness and help school staff manage key cyber threats facing schools. They have recently published alerts warning the education sector of the increased risk of cyber threats. On their website you will find free to download security audits, quick start guides, briefing packs and materials for schools. It also contains links to detailed technical information on best practice for securing Windows, Apple and Chrome devices, school networks, cloud learning platforms and IT systems in general. Some of the images and case studies in this presentation can be found within the education section of their website. I will be signposting to these resources towards the end of this presentation. IT systems are a crucial part of everyday life in schools. When something goes wrong with technology, it can have a devastating and disruptive impact on school operation. A cyber incident is when your systems, processes or people are negatively impacted through the means of your IT. Your IT team or IT support provider will be responsible for securing your systems and ensuring basic protection from cyber attacks. However, no technical solution is 100% effective. Often the best defence will be clued up staff who are aware of the main cyber risks and threats to a school. As such, school staff form a crucial part of your school's cyber defences. Your organisation should already have an IT security policy and acceptable use policy, which all staff should read and keep up to date with. Here are some key stats taken from a 2019 survey, which looked at cybersecurity in over 400 schools. This found that phishing attempts were the most common form of cyber attack. The vast majority of schools confirmed that losing access to IT would cause them considerable disruption, which is no surprise. However, 65% of schools didn't train their non-IT staff on cybersecurity. When trained, all school staff play a valuable role in defending against cyber attacks and incidents. There are all sorts of individuals and groups that might wish to target a school. They will try to trick unknowing staff to gain access to the school's data or money. Schools may also get caught up in untargeted attacks, as perpetrators may send out blanket emails hoping that the recipient clicks on a dodgy web link or email attachment. A targeted threat is where attackers identify weaknesses in the cyber defences or processes within a school. This could involve stealing or guessing someone's login credentials or exploiting flaws in software. Attackers may also have identified information about the school or personal information about a member of staff online. Attackers use this information to manipulate victims into performing actions or divulging confidential information, usually for fraud purposes. This is called social engineering, and often the victim has no idea that it is being done to them. There are many reasons why cybercriminals target schools. Schools hold a large amount of sensitive data on pupils, parents and staff. This can be valuable to criminals for a range of reasons, from setting up fake bank accounts to reselling the details online. Schools also carry out lots of financial transactions. Often these are only signed off by a few members of staff, so criminals may only need to target one or two individuals to steal money from a school or supplier. Whilst a school may have a dedicated IT team, cybersecurity is only a small part of their day job. Often schools don't want their IT systems taken offline during the school day or during term time for applying security updates, as this can cause disruption to teaching. This can mean that schools' IT systems are not adequately protected and are a soft target for cyber attackers. Due to budgetary constraints, a school could also have older equipment or software that is more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Schools are very busy places where quite rightly the focus is on teaching. This can mean security measures aren't adopted or discussed, which could improve the school's cyber resilience. Let's now look at some of the types of individuals that could target a school. Threats are normally described as being external or internal. In the next few slides, we're going to look at external threats. External threats are people from outside the school that may seek to cause harm. Online criminals are generally interested in making money and are very good at identifying what can be monetized. They will steal and sell sensitive school data. They can also block access to IT systems and demand ransom payments to let you back in. They may also look to exploit weak school processes and targets members of staff that authorize school payments. This could involve taking advantage of how you log into systems and services. Organised criminals have the resources and time to perfect their approach. The NCSC website contains a series of short case study videos which outline some real-life cybersecurity attacks on schools. I would highly recommend school staff watch these. The more sophisticated social engineering attacks will often begin by the criminal contacting the school prior to launching an attack. In the example shown, a criminal rings the school office pretending to be from the DFE. The caller asks for the head of finance's contact details. Significantly, they also ask the school office to make the head of finance aware that they will be receiving an urgent email from the DFE in the next few minutes, which needs an immediate response. This means that when they send a follow-up email to the head of finance, which contains a link to ransomware, the recipient is not unduly suspicious, as they were expecting the email. In this particular example, the school had data on their school servers encrypted, and this resulted in the school having no access to its computer network and data for several days. It's worth noting that criminals will pretend to be from any official body in the UK, depending on the school they are targeting. I've come across examples where criminals have looked at a school website for staff vacancies, and then spoken to the HR manager at the school asking if they would consider employing a non-UK national who was moving to the UK in the next few weeks. They then sent a CV email attachment which the HR manager opened, which infected the school's network. The staff member was expecting the email, and they were not suspicious, even though the email contained spelling mistakes and poor English, as the person sending the email had previously said they were from outside the UK. There was also a case where a school was having major building work undertaken in the summer holidays, which was reported online in the local press. An imposter then sent emails to the school as part of a ransomware attack for the attention of the business manager on the last day of term, pretending to be on behalf of the building company. In another case study, a school was targeted by criminals using a phishing technique, as the criminals wanted to steal money from parents at the school. Using this technique, criminals were able to access the school's email system and sent emails to parents which contained a link to an online form which asked parents for updated bank account details for future payment of school fees. As the email had been sent from the school's email address, it looked genuine, and the online form also looked genuine as the criminals had used images and school logos copied from the school's website. This also led to the criminals using and selling on the parents' personal details for future attacks. This isn't just a problem for independent schools. Nurseries, academies, schools and school suppliers have also fallen victim to this type of cyber fraud. Some foreign governments are also interested in accessing sensitive or valuable information which may give them a strategic or political edge. It's unlikely a foreign government would directly target a school. However, schools can be caught up in untargeted cyber attacks by foreign governments. An example of this was the WannaCry ransomware developed by North Korea, which affected the NHS and other organisations in 2017. The attack was possible because there was a security vulnerability in Windows devices, which allowed ransomware to run and spread very easily from one computer to another on the same network. Whilst this ransomware has been attributed to North Korea, it's not believed that they specifically targeted the NHS or schools. We are now going to look at some threats originating from inside a school. Whilst it's common to think about external threats, there may also be attempts to access your data or disrupt systems from inside the school. On very rare occasions, it may be a disgruntled employee, or more commonly, an honest mistake from a member of staff. And in a school, you may also have students eager to practice their hacking skills. These days, pupils have access to an abundance of material on the internet that can guide and coach them on computer hacking. There are plenty of tutorials, videos and free hacking tools that they can use to practice their skills. And as a student, they have access to a fully working school network where they may try and practice what they have learnt. There are lots of government-backed schemes and competitions for young people who have an interest in cybersecurity, which is a good way to positively channel their IT skills. However, schools may also have pupils who will be actively looking to disrupt lessons and be a nuisance. Think of it as the modern-day equivalent of setting off the school fire alarm. They may also try and access their own data or their friends to change behaviour records or coursework grades. In some cases, pupils are just curious and are looking to test their skills or show off to friends. They may not completely understand the implications of their actions, but might do something that seriously impacts their school's network. There are also many websites which offer free services to help attack networks and websites for a small fee. This may be in the form of a distributed denial of service attack, often referred to as DDoS, where lots of internet traffic is deliberately aimed at the school to overload its network. This can be very disruptive, leading to IT outages lasting for hours. Although it doesn't delete or change information on the school's network, DDoS attacks can prevent access to critical internet-based services. In this example, a pupil was able to access the school's MIS system because a teacher left a password for their computer out in the open. In this example, the teacher had used the same password for the MIS system as other IT school accounts. The pupil guessed this and accessed the MIS system, which contained thousands of bits of sensitive data on other pupils. This contributed to a major breach of the school's data, and the school had to report the incident to the Information Commissioner's Office. In other cases, students have used a hidden personal smartphone to shoulder surf and video their teachers entering password details. They then play back the video and can view the password that has been typed. Whilst it's rare, there is a small risk where a disgruntled member of staff might act against the school through its IT networks. The risk of this is low, but it's important that school leaders are aware that this can happen. If individual members of staff have increased levels of IT access, they also have the potential to cause increased levels of damage to the school's IT, either accidentally or on purpose. Staff and students should only have the relevant level of IT permissions and access to systems they require. The more access someone has, the more data will be exposed in the event of that user's IT accounts being compromised. For these reasons, it is important that access rights for users no longer at the school are quickly revoked. If staff are undergoing misconduct procedures and have been suspended from work, it is vital that access to their work IT accounts are immediately suspended. especially important with remote systems, hosted MIS and learning platforms, which staff can access from outside of school premises. It's important that schools undertake their own data audit to understand what existing data they have, where it is stored, and whether it's shared or processed with any third parties. School data retention policies should be enforced to ensure that only current or statutory data is retained, as this minimises potential data exposure in the event of a breach. Staff should only use school-approved data storage for schoolwork. The use of third-party personal cloud storage should be prohibited in staff IT policies, as the school will have no control over this. Users of IT systems should not have the ability by default to install software on school devices. They should also be restricted from installing non-approved apps on a learning platform, as malware has the potential to extract sensitive data from your systems and share it with a third party. If sensible IT restrictions are put in place, then a user would be unable to accidentally or maliciously infect the system. These preventative measures are not meant to be unhelpful or make life difficult for staff, so it's important for school leaders to consult with their staff to make them aware that these restrictions have been implemented to protect staff, students, and the school or trust. It's best practice to restrict access to IT systems and data on a need-to-know basis, as if a user account does get hacked, then the amount of data exposed and the subsequent damage will be limited. When staff move on from the school, their IT and data access should be immediately revoked, as legally they should no longer have access to school data. This is especially relevant for temporary members of staff. The case study on the screen is fairly self-explanatory. It's important that schools have robust IT policies in place so that users with high-level access are not allowed to wipe audit trails, and IT and system logs are retained for a specified period of time. This also protects staff from any false accusations, as an audit trail would help exonerate them in the event of any allegations against them. Thankfully, incidents involving disgruntled staff are rare, but rogue staff can pose a risk, and therefore school leaders should be aware so they can minimise risk. A good step from the school in this situation would have been to remove access from that member of staff as soon as they were initially suspended. Accidental cyber incidents remain the main reason why schools report data breaches to the Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO. An accidental cyber incident may involve misplacing a USB storage device that wasn't encrypted, or accidentally sending the wrong person an email containing sensitive data. Staff may also feel compelled to perform work outside of school using their own personal devices. These may not be well protected. For these reasons, many schools prohibit the use of personal devices by staff and insist that they use a managed school device for work purposes. It is not a surprise that schools report a high number of cyber incidents every year. Schools are busy places, and it's very easy to overlook something when doing things in a hurry. It's important that schools do not have a blame culture when it comes to reporting data breaches or cybersecurity issues. A fear of reporting due to the threat of repercussions can be counterproductive. It's generally easier to resolve issues and minimise the operational impact on the school and any reputational damage the earlier incidents are reported. Storing data on a USB stick that has no password or encryption protection can lead to a major data breach if it's lost or stolen. Schools should try to avoid using USB sticks if they can, and use more secure cloud storage. If schools have to use removable storage devices, such as USB sticks, then they should be encrypted and password protected. Now we have covered some of the most common threats and types of cyber incidents facing schools. Let's have a look at how we can defend against them. This section looks at how schools can defend themselves from phishing attacks. Phishing is one of the most common types of cyber attack and can be targeted or untargeted. Phishing is where an email appears genuine but it's actually fake. It might try and trick staff into revealing sensitive information, or it might contain a link to a malicious website or attachment which is affected with malware. Some phishing attempts are random, whilst others might be more targeted to a specific school or individual working at the school. Phishing attempts typically arrive via email, but can also arrive by social media, text message, or phone call. Phishing emails will often compel someone to act. In this phishing email example, someone is pretending to be Microsoft. The email is telling the school's business manager that they have reached the size limit on their email account. For most people, not being able to receive or send emails is something that would worry them, so they will usually act quickly to help prevent it. The phishing email is prompting the user to click on a link to increase their email capacity. When the user clicks on the dodgy link, they will be taken to a website that looks like a genuine Microsoft web page. Once the user enters their username and password on this web page, the attacker will see these credentials and use them to access the business manager's email account. Once the attacker has gained access, they may steal the school's data or try and use the business manager's email account to phish other user accounts within the school. They might also try to convince a parent, supplier, or another member of staff to transfer money to the attacker's bank account. Cyber attackers will often use publicly available information about staff or their school to make targeted phishing attempts look more convincing. This information, known as a digital footprint, may be taken from the school's website, social media channels, or professional networking sites. Staff should avoid posting specific details about their school and their role, especially if their role involves handling sensitive information about children, school finances, or if they have high-level privileged IT access. Staff are less likely to fall for a social engineering attack if they know what to look out for. Hallmarks of a phishing attempt include pressurizing people to act. Checking for poor spelling and grammar is a good place to start, but this won't apply to all phishing emails. If something doesn't look quite right, then it probably isn't. Many phishing attacks rely on the victims being too embarrassed to ask for help. In some cases, phishing attacks may claim to have compromising or personal material about staff taken from dating sites or personal social media accounts. Phishing emails might also try and confuse users with technical terms or ask that they pay a ransom for their silence. Phishing attempts can be very difficult to spot. It's important that if school staff do click on a link or file by mistake, that it's reported to the right people immediately. This will reduce the potential harm caused. So it's important that everyone knows who in the school to report such incidents to, and they shouldn't be afraid to raise any concerns with their IT team or a senior member of staff. Cyber attackers may try to guess passwords in order to access staff devices, important accounts and IT systems. Attackers can guess passwords based on the most common passwords in use, for example, password 1. Attackers can also use public information about staff and the school to guess passwords. Once they have guessed one password, they will try to use the same password to access other accounts, as people often use the same passwords for different accounts. The best passwords are hard to guess and are not repeated across your different accounts. Criminals may have even discovered someone's passwords through an earlier data breach from a website or online app that was used in the past. Therefore, it's extremely important that unique passwords are used for different accounts. Staff should never use the same password for home and school accounts. If people have used the same password for multiple online accounts, it's important they check to see whether those accounts have ever been compromised through a data breach. You can visit the site www.haveibeenpwned.com to find out if an email address has been reported to be involved in a previous data breach and whether the passwords for that account were exposed. If colleagues discover some of their passwords have been breached, they should reset passwords for those accounts and any other accounts where they have used the same password. Sometimes a compromised password is added to a phishing email by a cyber attacker to make the request seem more credible. It's important that schools have strong password policies. Weak passwords can be hacked in seconds. The longer the password is, the stronger it becomes and the harder to crack. Make passwords strong by using a sequence of 3 random words. You can make passwords even stronger by adding special characters and numbers. So Flamingo Headman could be 42 @Flamingo Headman. Encourage colleagues to replace weak passwords with new ones by stringing 3 random words together, starting with the most important accounts which can be used to access the most sensitive data. As already mentioned, school staff should ensure any personal and work passwords are different, and never use a school email address for non-work related websites or applications. It's also important that people use unique passwords for their different email accounts, as an email address is often used to reset other passwords. Two-factor authentication, or 2FA, is normally a free security feature which gives you an extra layer of protection online and stops cybercriminals getting into user accounts, even if they have the password. It reduces the risk by asking users to provide a second factor, such as getting a text or code when they log in, to double check they are who they say they are. Due to safeguarding, many school staff and students will not have access to personal smartphones in the classroom. However, many systems can be configured so that two-factor authentication is always enforced when a staff member is accessing a system remotely from outside of school premises. It's good practice to use different passwords for the most sensitive accounts. Remembering lots of passwords can be difficult, so if staff do need to write a password down, make sure they lock it away in a secure place that only they can access. In this section, we will look at how you can protect both your school and personal devices. Whilst the device that staff use for school is likely to be managed and protected by a school's IT department, there are still some things that users can do to ensure the devices stay safe and secure. If school policies allow, then staff might be permitted to access school data on their own personal devices, or use external devices to store data on. It's equally important that these devices are kept secure, as any cyber incident on them could impact on the cybersecurity of the school. Software and apps will have flaws from time to time, some of which can be exploited, leading to security problems. This can happen before a school has had a chance to apply the fix. Due to this, schools should apply security updates to their systems and devices as soon as possible. If staff see error messages or notice that software and apps aren't updating as they would expect, they should report to their IT support provider. Schools should control the software or apps that can be installed on school-owned devices. If staff have to access school systems or data on a personal device, then it's best that they only use an official app store like Google Play or Apple App Store. The apps and official stores are checked to provide a certain level of protection from viruses which might cause harm. Staff should avoid downloading third-party apps from unknown websites or vendors. Cyber attackers may try to physically exploit a school device to access sensitive information or accounts. For example, if a device is left unlocked, lost or stolen. Schools should always ensure that devices are secured with a screen lock. A screen lock can be a PIN, password, biometric fingerprint or Face ID, or pattern. If staff are storing sensitive information on a school device, then it should also be encrypted and backed up. Using USB storage that has not been scanned for malware could lead to school devices being infected. Schools should be wary of free giveaways, as these could have malware already on them. Any data stored on USB storage devices should be encrypted so that the data cannot be accessed if the device is lost. It's important that everyone in a school feels comfortable speaking out if they feel something isn't right. By calling it out at the right time, they can prevent something that may seem irrelevant at first turning into a critical cyber incident. Cyber attacks can be difficult to spot, and schools cannot be expected to identify them all of the time. Staff should not hesitate to ask for further guidance or support when something feels suspicious, unexpected, or unusual. Everyone makes mistakes, and when they are busy, it's easy to click on a link or open a suspicious email by mistake. It's important that staff feel comfortable to report any cyber incidents or mistakes as early as possible. Staff shouldn't be afraid to flag up policies or processes that make their job difficult. An example would be if staff had to use complicated and time-consuming processes to store class behaviour data on a folder on a school server when working remotely from home, as this could encourage them to deviate from school policies and store school data on unprotected USB sticks or on personal cloud storage. Security that doesn't work for staff doesn't work, and there's no point in having unnecessarily complex systems if no one is going to use them. It ends up putting schools at more risk of a data breach. Hopefully you'll now be aware of some of the main threats and types of cyber incidents schools might experience, and have a good idea on how to protect your school against those kinds of attacks. Here is a quick summary of the key recommended actions that school colleagues should follow as soon as possible. Review the privacy settings for social media, professional networking sites and app accounts. Be sure staff know who they can report any unusual activity to. Check devices are set to receive updates automatically. Ensure strong passwords are used. Remove any apps or software that have not been downloaded from official stores. Check passwords for work accounts are unique. And if it's not possible to follow security advice, process or policy, flag it to your IT department. As stated towards the beginning of this presentation, some of the case studies and slides I have referred to, which are freely available, can be downloaded from the National Cybersecurity Centre's website. The link displayed on the screen will take you to current guidance and security information for schools, published by the UK Government. This resource also contains handy guides and posters which can be used by schools to raise awareness. As we come to the end of this presentation, I would like to quickly mention some Scomis services, which can benefit schools in relation to cybersecurity. As well as providing MIS support and hosting, Scomis offer a range of technical and training services to support a wide range of IT platforms and solutions. Our remote backup services allow schools to protect both their critical on-premise and cloud data. Having a separate secure backup solution is vital for swift operational recovery, should the worst happen and your school fall victim to a malware or ransomware attack. Our infrastructure services will ensure that your school has secure local networks and wireless. Our device procurement services assist with the procurement of virus-proof devices such as Chromebooks. We also offer both on-site and remote technical support and assistance with Windows networks, iPads and Chromebooks, as well as digital education platforms such as Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. Scomis are a Microsoft and Google partner. As such, we can provide audits to ensure that any cloud platforms and systems that have been set up by schools during the pandemic are secure and fit for purpose. We also have some upcoming Masterclass sessions on MIS housekeeping and GDPR, which ties in nicely with what we have covered today. For more information about future Scomis Masterclasses or any of our services, please visit our website www.scomis.org or speak with your Scomis account manager. Finally, I just want to thank you for taking the time to join the event today. Thank you very much.